Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Vulture, Dealin Death, out May 21st on Metal Blade Records. This album has 10 tracks, 42 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. They are a German speed thrash metal band. Now, this album feels very linear, very cohesive, like there's not a lot of changes happening from song to song as you progress down the line with the record. It's an album that almost feels like it takes you from point A to point B in the shortest distance possible. Once you look deep into the record, you realize that's not quite the case. This is an album that offers you some speed bumps along the way. They change the speed, they change the styles, some songs a little bit faster, some songs a little bit slower, just enough to make the album feel a little bit more dynamic, feel a little bit more fluid. But the sensation that you get at the end of the record is one of just one linear motion. And that hurts the overall perception that you have of the record. And it's not necessarily quite true when you actually look deep inside of the album and you see exactly how it is constructed on the individual song basis, and then obviously how that impacts the overall design of the record. Once you get into the soundscape, this is an album that really merges speed and thrash well, sometimes in the same songs and sometimes keeping a little bit separated in order to give some of those dynamic motions, some of those speed bumps along the line. It also has a very old school approach to it. Everything about this album sounds old school. The vocals, the guitars, the drums, the bass, the overall production of this record. It just feels like an album that's been stuck in a time capsule from the 80s and you just got to discover it now. That's exactly what this record has to offer as far as the overall perception of the album, the overall perception of the sound, but that's exactly what you're expecting from a band like Vulture. So they stay true to their DNA. They stay true to who they are as a band on this record, not going completely off the books, not going completely off the beaten path, and rather just try to fine-tune exactly what makes them who they are and allow the album to have a little bit more life within it. That is the overall soundscape. That is exactly what this record will give to the listener. Once you go deep into that soundscape, there are two different pillars, and the two pillars are there to give you two different angles or two different approaches, if you will. One is the drums and bass, and the other one is the guitars. The drums and bass on this album are really phenomenal. They stay very connected and very consistent from the top all the way to the bottom, always grounding the record, always giving some meat to the bone, always making the album feel like it has a great foundation and never changing that foundation regardless of the individual approach of the songs, regardless if the song is a little bit more thrash metal or a little bit more speed or how it's constructed. All of these things kind of become irrelevant because the drums and bass stay consistent, stay uniform across all 10 tracks. And you need that because on the other hand, you have the guitars, and the guitar sometimes feels like they're trying to levitate the track. They're trying to take off because they're very driven. They have a lot of speed to them, and they have power, but the power kind of dissipates throughout the entire song. It's not concentrated. There's not many tracks on this record that really offer a chunky approach as far as the guitar sound goes. It's more driven, it's more linear, it's more to the point. And because of that, on the guitar side, you really need something that keeps the sound connected, that keeps the sound feeling cohesive, and that gives depth of experience to the sound itself. And that's why the work of the drums and bass is really important, not only on the individual basis, but at how it connects and how it interacts with the overall guitar sound. One without the other doesn't work. The album would feel very flat across all the different parameters. On top of that, you have the vocals. I absolutely love the vocals on this record. It's one of the takeaways from this album. I love the range, I love the power, I love the highs, I just love the strength that the vocals give to the album, that the vocals give to the overall sound experience, and how they try to elevate the quality of the lyrics and the impact that those lyrics have in the overall construction of the songs. So if there's one highlight to take away from this record, is the vocal performance. Overall, this is a kind of an interesting album for me because I really enjoy the record. There's really nothing that I can look at this album and say that could have been done better, could have been done differently, that doesn't belong there. All of the pieces feel to me that they are in the right place. But the album doesn't deliver that punch, it doesn't deliver that impact. It's a record that doesn't make me come back to it. Perhaps because it feels too simple. You get everything that the record has to offer the first time that you go through it. The quality is there, but it's not an album that has things hidden within itself that makes you come back to it to try to rediscover those elements. What you see is what you get. That's pretty much the overall experience that I took out of this album. Once I get into my favorite songs, I have to start off with Count Your Blessings. It has tons of speed. It's a very robust song from that perspective. It just always feels like it's moving in one direction, not changing too much from verses to chorus. It stays very linear. The majority of the changes are really happening on the vocal side. The vocals in the chorus really emphasize a little bit more of what the track has in store for you, and because of that slight change, you feel like you're moving from one part of the track into the next, because musically, like I said, it stays very linear, it stays very together from all the elements as you move from the beginning all the way to the end. But it's a track that has two motors, the guitars and the vocals. These two are really the strengths that are pushing this song forward. Next, you have Gorgon, a track that has a great intro. The piano is absolutely marvelous. I love that intro. My favorite song on the album, perhaps a lot of it comes from that piano intro, because it sets this song apart from everything else that you're going to hear on this record. The track feels more complete overall. It has a more balanced out approach between verses and chorus. The vocals become very ominous at times, and I feel like that adds to the overall ominous of the sound that the track has. This is a very dark sounding track. The keyboards kind of did that as well. They kind of set the tone for that darkness. The backing vocals in the chorus work extremely well, give you a sense of a live vibe to a track that has a lot of strengths within themselves, and a song that's going to play really well in front of a live audience because of how it's constructed, because of how it's delivered, and how it uses those backing vocals in the chorus. Like I said, my favorite song of the album, perhaps the hookiest song on the album. Last but not least, Feel the Phantom. Great tempo. I love the bass on this song. I love how it comes across. It really feels like the bass is breaking away from the rest of the track. It's perhaps one of the songs where you can feel the difference between all the different elements. You can hear the vocals, you can hear the guitars, you can hear the bass, you can hear the drums. Everything is happening on a different lane, everything coming at you separated from each other, so it's easy for you to digest each and every single element of it and then put them all back together in order for you to really appreciate what the song has in store for the listener. Great track, very dynamic, very fluid, but very linear at the same time. This is it. This is Vulture with Dealing Death, out May 21st on Metal Blade Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.